Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Hope you're doing well. This is my penultimate wrap up of the year. It's my November wrap up, the books I read in November. And I read a diversity. I read so many different genres. I read in 3 types. I read physically, audibly and ebook-y, which I have read those ways before, but primarily physically. But this month has primarily been ebook, I think, which isn't not really like me. And just there has been so many different genres. I've read like memoirs, graphic memoirs, manga, non-fiction, fiction, contemporary, fantasy, just a lot of different ones. So let's get into this. The first book I read in November was the manga Tokyo Ghoul Volume 1. This is by Sui Ishida, and it was translated by Joe Yamakaze. This basically follows the main character Ken Kanaki, who is like a human, and he's like he gets asked out on a date by like this like cute girl, but the only thing she wants from him is his body, not like sexually, but she wants to eat him because she is a ghoul. But this isn't a spoiler because it happened like in like the first bit. Like a strange turn of events happened, and they both like nearly die, and her organs gets transplanted into Ken, so he becomes like the first ever like half ghoul, half human person, and yes, like deal with these like thoughts and like feelings of like who is he, and living in like as a human in a ghoul world and a ghoul in a human world and stuff like that. I gave it this 3.5 stars. It's fine. The graphics are like quite enjoyable. They're okay. And the story's okay. It's not really like my sort of preference or like story things in a book anyway. So I wasn't like going into it that high. It's just I wanted to like, I was reading it in my like Halloween like reading challenge 24-hour thing, but I didn't finish it. But I finished it like the first because I just wanted to. So yeah, so it's fine. And I mean, I might continue the series if I find like the second one or whatever like in a charity shop or something, but I'm not gonna actively search them out. It's like, I mean I wouldn't mind, but I'm not like that invested. So yeah, but other than that, it was a fun read. It was fine. The second, third and fourth book, all ones I read from NetGalley, and I made a separate video which I'll link up there if you want to see me go in more detail into them. But the first one was Pride and Joy. This is a children's book by Frank Cielo and Caitlin Potvin, and we basically follow the main character Joy, who is so her brother is like sort of like gets bullied for being gay, and then she's like, oh, I want to do something, I want to help, and then her mum's like, oh, you can be like an ally and stuff, and then she puts on like a bake sale. She asks his permission, which I thought is like quite a good way to like show that like he actually wants to help. And then she kind of understands that yeah, she can help this way, but sometimes you have to like speak up as well. And yeah, it's really good. I'm so happy like it is a children's book, and like children can like understand like LGBTQ plus people, and it's so much very different people of different races and different genders and different parts of the community. And also about like how to be an ally, a good ally, like ally and stuff, and there's so much information at the back, and like it would be so good to like have like in like a classroom and stuff, and for like teachers like and stuff. So I'm so happy about it. It wasn't aimed at me, but it was still I still enjoyed it. I gave that 5 stars. And then the third book I read was Becoming Ted by Matt Cain. I gave this 5 stars as well. I spoke about it more in the thing, but this book was so, oh my god, it is so good. I love it so much. So basically we follow the main character Ted and his like husband of like 20 years, I think. Like Ted finds out he's like been cheating on him, and then his husband is like, I want to break up. So Ted's like, oh, okay, what to do? And then he's also like he works like in his family's ice cream shop in Lancashire on the coast, and he's like, I don't like ice cream. He doesn't like it. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to be a drag queen, and with the help of his friend, and who I was so good. She did some things, and like there is a lot of nuances with the characters, but overall I literally loved her. Denise. Yeah, she was lovely. I loved her. Relationship was so great, and it's just sort of like and he thinks back to like when he was with the past, and they're demarcated by these like little ice creams, so you know that it's going back, and it's so good. And you get like the story from different perspectives: Ted, Denise, and Oscar, who is like he's from Poland, and he's sort of like coming to terms with like his own sexuality and stuff. And oh, it is so good. So I'm so happy to know, Gally, that I was able to like review it. I think it's coming out February or January, I'm not sure, but I definitely want to get a physical copy because I absolutely adored that book, and I definitely need to read it again. It was so good. It was just so lovely. The characters, the writing, the scening. Like the writing wasn't like amazing, like it wasn't like the thing, but it was so easy to read. It was so engrossing. The characters were just everything. Totally recommend it when it comes out. And then the third book I read was poetry collection Sweet, Young and Worried by Bliff Baird. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It's a poetry collection about the main character, but it's like poetry, so it's like from herself, about like thinking about when like her like, relationship with her mum, and like sort of like an eating disorder, and like her own like sexuality and different things, like a lot of different themes. There was all like mostly written like well, and like it was like quite impactful and meaning. It just like wasn't like the best like experience just for the content, but it is like written well, and it's like split into like different sections of like going through the pain and then sort of like working out that you need to like make changes, and then like the sort of like idea about the future and stuff. Yeah, it is very good. And there was quite a lot of ones that was like very meaningful. I think it's coming out in December, or it might have been November, but yeah, check the video for more information on those 3 books. Then the 5th book I read was My Policeman by Bethan Roberts. This was my most anticipated read of the entire year. I wanted to read this for months and months. I did want to initially get it in Brighton, but I didn't go this year, so I just ordered it instead. But yeah, I did a whole reading vlog and like review about this book that you can check up there if you want to. I go into a lot more detail and like my thoughts and stuff. But yeah, I ended up giving this the 4.5 stars. I'm still conflicted on what to give it, because I don't know, some parts of it is like a full-blown 5-star, love it, and there's other parts are like, this is honestly like 2 or 3 stars. Like I'm like, sorry, no, no, I'm just no, thank you. But I feel like I might have maybe upped it a bit just because I didn't want to like disappoint my older self, like my younger self, that was anticipating it. I do not know, but basically, set in Brighton is a different perspective, sort of, from Marion and Patrick about their like relationship with their policeman Tom, and how this sort of like love triangle thing, like in like 50s Brighton, and how like sort of like not being true to who, like, I don't know, there's like, I don't know, it's nice, it's good, and it's sort of like Marion is like recollecting back to the 50s, and her relationship with Tom, and sort of like thinking about like what went on like from childhood to adulthood and stuff, and like her like life teaching and things. And Patrick has just come to live with them like in the present day, which is like 1999, and it's sort of just like a bit tense, and because she's writing these recollections to take to him basically. And then there's then that happens, and then there's a bit from Patrick, and then Marion again, then Patrick, then Marion again. And Patrick bits are like his sort of like journal at the time, in two different points of time, and about like how he first found him, and not found him, like saw Tom, and sort of like their relationship in a way and stuff. And yeah. It is a good book. It's just, my main thing is that like I do not believe that like this 60-ish-year-old woman can think back like 40 years or whatever in so much detail about like what people was like actually wearing, the colour of lipstick, like what other people were like thinking, and like their exact things they said and stuff. I'm just like, that just didn't make sense. I feel like it might have been better if maybe like she found her old diary, and then she was like, oh, I wanted to rewrite it for you, as in for Patrick, or something like that. Might have been just a bit more like sensible, in my personal opinion. And certain things that like people did, I was just like, oh my god, no. But yeah, it is good. It's just not, it wasn't really necessarily what I expected per se, but it was still, I would still recommend it. Yep. And if you want to know more of my thoughts, see the video. Then I read my first ever reread, and it was a reread from a book I read in October, and that is Lie With Me by Philippe Besson. This I gave 5 stars again. On my core pile, it actually got a few more like points than it did the first time round. This book is just so damn amazing. I absolutely love it. I love it so much. It is so good. Please read this. You have to. And this time I went through with a pencil, and I like annotate, like underline. I did that to my policeman as well, because I thought I was going to be like the thing, but like it wasn't. But like I have literally so much, like, I don't know if I'm actually showing you because I can't see it at the moment, but like there is just so much that is like thingy, and like I don't want to like spoil it, but like that's the last page, and it's oh my god, it's so good. I literally have so many quotes. If you want to check out my review on Goodreads or StoryGraph, I put like all like my favorite quotes in there, and I just did like a few, and it was still like really long. I only did a few of them because literally the whole book could honestly be in like a review of great quotes, because it is amazing. It is super short. I think that's what it was about. We basically follow Philippe, not the author, but there's like a word where it's like auto-fiction or something, where it's like, it's not autobiography, but it's sort of like elements of your personal life in it. I do not know. But basically Philippe, he's in like the 2000s-ish, and he thinks he sees Thomas like walking away in a hotel. And he's like, Thomas! And then it's not Thomas, but he gets transported back to the 80s, and he's talking about his first love with Thomas and Andrew. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with French names. Oh yeah, it was translated by Molly Ringwald from French. It's so, oh my god, it is so amazing. It is so good. Yeah, it's basically just about like this sort of like doomed love of like relationship, and the title is just like the most, because it's like lie with me as in like lay with me, but it's also like because like they need to lie, and oh, it's so good, so good. And then like he like sort of like goes forward again into like present time, and he's speaking with like the son who, well, it turns out the boy he thought was Thomas is actually Thomas's son, and then he talked about like Thomas's life after the thing, and just I do not really want to spoil it, but just like you please read this book. It is so good. It is so good. Oh, I was like, should I just learn French so I can read everything that Philippe Besson has written? I might do it. I don't know. Yeah. Phenomenal, amazing, great, loved it. Totally recommend. Don't know why I went Yorkshire just then. Then I read this short little memoir called Who Killed My Father by Edouard Louis, and Lauren Stein was the translator. This is like a really short like non-fiction memoir thing about Edouard, and he's thinking about his like relationship with his father, sort of like, and like family and stuff, and how this sort of like everyday sort of like homophobia in a way that was a part of his like upbringing and things. It's not like the most nice read. It's sort of about like poverty in a way as well, and different stuff like that, but it is quite like good, like the like relationship and things, and it's how like he doesn't really like his father, but like he still wants a relationship with him. And as you can see, the title is Who Killed My Father, as in like a statement. It's not a question, it's not a question mark, it's not who killed him, I don't know, because it actually goes into like the idea of how like the French government and policies and different people in power enacted certain laws and regulations and things like that that made like poorer people and like people with like disabilities and like people that couldn't like really just go out and walk just like a healthy person, you know, and how they all like have added to like physical and mental pressure on his father in like his later years and things like that. And yeah, I gave that 4 stars. Then the next book I read was Good Girl by Anna Fitzpatrick. I got this as an audiobook through NetGalley. I ended up giving it 2.25 stars. I didn't like this. I really didn't like this. It's basically about the main character, Lucy. I put like plot because it's, I don't know, it is a plot, but it's also just like what. She's working at a bookstore, but she doesn't want. She wants to pursue writing, and she has like this like sexual like desires for like a man to like beat her, and she's into like very like kinky like BDSM stuff like that and things. She finds like she buys like these 70s teen magazine, and it like incites like a passion to write again, and she delves like further into like the media world at the time about like the treatment of women and everything like that, which is it's quite good. It's just it doesn't really go anywhere. And yeah, so I said there's more to it, but I don't really care to explain it. I said there is some interesting and important discussions on like feminism, consent, BDSM, women in media, female objectification of men, the reality of like porn and stuff, friendships and things. But none of it's really explored that well. She touches on her relationship with her mum and like childhood, but it's like not like deep. And like she doesn't really say why she wants like this like rough like sexual acts. And like it's quite like, I mean it's not erotic. It's just like it was quite uncomfortable, to be honest, in my personal opinion. And I'm not like being like prudish. I'm just like, I just didn't I don't know, I just didn't like it. But like she doesn't say like why she wants this, and I feel like it sort of like might give this impression that going into a certain relationship like this can just be like easily just like, oh, I want to be like hit and verbally abused and all this stuff. Like it's not something you can just like go into like easily. I feel like like you have to have like this idea of like there is some discussions on like consent, but like some of it isn't really as well. And I don't know, it's quite, I don't know. And then like talking about like the Smash magazine and like the treatment of women and stuff is like was quite good. Her like it's like understanding things, but it doesn't go anywhere, and I'm just like, what? Like it was unfinished. Like lots of the like I said, like, here's my review. This is a running theme with many of the different plot lines in this book. They are all left rather unfinished. I would be more annoyed at this if I had been interested in them, but really I wasn't. But it just irked me. The characters were all like literally insufferable. I felt like they were so unrealistic. They were so like unlikable. There was like some nuances, but most of the time they were quite unlikable. The main character was I just did not like her. Most of the other ones were just I just really didn't like it. The only character I liked was Nigel the dog, and that was just because she was a dog. The writing was okay. It wasn't like great or intriguing. I did laugh at a few things, but the humour or wittiness was rather forced. The dialogue, the dialogue did not flow like, or wasn't realistic in my opinion, like at all. I was like, what? I had many like eye roll moments and like cringiness. And then I said, if a certain thing happened near the end, I would literally have thrown my phone at the wall. So yes, I'm extremely happy with that decision, mostly for my phone and not an appreciation for the story. It was that or physically throwing up at how cringy that would have been. That's all I'll say on the matter. Yeah. If you can't tell, I did not like that book. But thank you for NetGalley for giving me a copy anyway. But now for me, love. And then the next book I read was an ebook, which was No Way They Were Gay by Lee Wind. This is a non-fiction book split into like introduction and then like 3 parts about like men who loved men, women who loved women, and people that lived out of like side of like the gender norms. And there's sort of like there's 4 main people in each category, and then there's like a sort of like snippet, and it goes over about like I want to say like roughly 20 to like 25-ish maybe, like touched on like certain like famous people throughout history and like different cultures and like time frames and like languages and societies and things, about different like queer people through history, and the fact that like we were always here. And it is really good. I ended up giving that 4.5 stars. It's really like interesting about learning about different people. I think my favourite section was definitely about Bayard Rustin, just because he did so much, but like at the time he didn't really get much recognition like at all, and he just had such like a great ideology about like how like we shouldn't, because we're all different, we shouldn't focus on our otherness, but we should say that all the things that make us other make us the same in a way, because we all have like something that makes us different. And this sort of like ideology and like mixing like his like homosexuality as well as being like African American in homophobic and racist society in America gave him like this sort of like nuanced merging of like the 2 movements. And yeah, and like there was so many different people in it. It was really interesting, and I would totally recommend that. So yeah. And then the next book I read was The Man in Three Witches, which I did have physically, but I ended up DNFing this at literally 50%. I ended up giving it still 2.5 stars. I did a whole video sort of like on like my idea of DNFing, which you can see up there if you want to. And then this book, I did not really like the writing. It sort of like changed from like first to third person. I didn't really know like when it actually was what, sort of, like not fully, but like sort of. And it was about like this like town in Essex during like the Civil War, and how like the people are like fearful of like witches and things. Yeah, sort of. I think it's sort of based on like fact, like historical like stuff, but I'm not entirely sure. Just about like this like, I don't know, I just didn't really like it. I wouldn't really recommend it. It was very slow paced, sort of. I just didn't really like the characters. And yeah, enough said. So I still read like, I think about like 180 or 90 pages, but yeah. Then I read The Times I Knew I Was Gay by Eleanor Cruz. This is a graphic memoir, the first I've ever like read of this type, which I thought was like really like interesting. I'm giving this 4 stars. It is quite good. It's just talking about like Eleanor herself when she's like growing up from like childhood to like teenage years, university, and sort of like the different times in her life when she knew, or for the most part told herself she wasn't gay, and just sort of like her like experience with it, and like different relationships and friendships and things like that. It is quite well. It is good. It is quite like entertaining. There wasn't enough, that you like spoke out to me that much. Also, I felt like the art style. This is not a dig in anyway, because like I cannot draw for like my life, but the art style is definitely, in my opinion, suited more to like a children's book, or like maybe middle grade, not YA to adult, because of certain themes. And I don't feel like there was that much like expression or emotion like in the actual drawings, and they didn't really add that much to the actual plot. So I could have just read the like text and I still would have had the same reaction. So I don't really feel like the graphic elements were a major part of the graphic memoir. It was just sort of like a memoir with pictures. So yeah, but it was still good. I still would recommend it. And yeah, I would like to maybe read like some more things of this type. I don't know. Yeah. Then the next book I read is We Are Everywhere. This was compiled by Matthew Reimer and Leighton Brown. Well, it's written by them as well. This is Protest, Power and Pride in the History of Queer Liberation. I ended up giving this 4.75 stars. This is another non-fiction book, just detailing the American history of queer liberation and like the gay queer like movement and things from like the early 20th century up until like 2000s, and like detailing the specific like key people and figures that were integral to the movement, and refocusing the idea that like it started at Stonewall. It's mostly comprised of like white cis men, and refocusing that to actually be like, no, we owe a lot of gratitude and praise and like our freedoms to like black like other racial minorities, trans people, non-binary people, bisexual people, women, so many women, and yeah, just like, and like it started before then, and there's a lot of like before Stonewall, I mean, and like a lot of things led up to that. I mean, so yeah, so it is very detailed. It's quite a long book. The one I read as ebook was like 700 pages, but the only one I found on like Goodreads and StoryGraph to like do my review was like 300. So I think that's because it's meant to be like a big book, like physically, but because like ebook wise it was still just like on the same page. But yeah, but it was quite a lot of writing, and it just is very detailed. And yeah, it's such a shame to know that so much of queer history had so much like infighting and like sexist and racist and like lesbophobic and biphobic and transphobic rhetorics within the actual movement. And I'm just like, if they did like work together more, and you know, how much further ahead could have we been? In my view, probably a lot further. And it is such a shame that so much of it was about that, but it does also detail a lot of the achievements and wins, and just like refocusing the history on the other members that were sort of ignored by the mainstream. And yeah, it's really good. It's very detailed, and there's so many like really like great quality pictures and like pin backs and like pictures of like protesters and like famous people, and it talks about all like the different organizations. So many things I didn't know, and it's yeah, it's really good. And so many things like this like need to be like taught more like in like school and stuff, because like my queer history is like not very good like from school. Like I honestly don't really know anything I learned from like school. Really, no. So like it is something that we should be teaching more. And it is a very good compilation. I would like to see something maybe from like a British perspective about like British queer history, because it is only really American. Of course, a lot of these events inspired similar events around the world. So like, and things. So a lot of it is resonant with other cultures and countries, but it is US centric. But yeah, it was still good. So I would recommend that. Then the next book I read was a really short. It was called "Is Queers Read This?" It's by Anonymous. It was I gave this 4.75 stars. It was like only 20 pages. I found an e-copy of it, like a PDF. I think it's in the public domain, I'm not sure. But it was first published in 1990 during one of the gay like pride marches in New York, and it was like a pamphlet, and it had different like sort of like essaysy sort of like mantras and things by like different people in the community. It is primarily like white homosexuals perspective, and there isn't like really like much representation of like different races or genders, but there is some bisexuality in it, but not like that much. But like it, for the most part, it is like a lot of like rage, and like because this was like during the height of like the AIDS crisis, and like so many years of governments doing nothing for people, and just like the death of thousands of people. And yeah, so it is quite hard, and there is like a lot of like not very pleasant things, but like you definitely do get a sense of the passion that these people were literally like, their friends and family were dying, like people were dying every day, and like no, it seemed like nobody was caring. So like you do understand why they felt like this, and it is inspiring as well. Like I felt like if I was given this at that time, I would have been like, you know, come on then, let's go down to City Hall or whatever. Like it is very inspiring. It is well written as well. And I did enjoy it, and it is a good like way to like get in the minds of these people that were going through like such a horrific like point in history, and how they were feeling and stuff. So yeah, I would sort of recommend it. Then the next book I read was Zapped by Sherwood Smith. This is like a sort of like a queer short story fantasy thing. I kind of like an ebook as well. I gave this 3.25 stars. I can't remember what I said. I said this is a short fantasy magical contemporary-esque story where we follow the main character Laurel. During the summer between middle and high school, she discovers she has a power to zap things like to and from her. She starts school and becomes intrigued by Mercy, a fellow student who she later learns has powers as well in a group, and the fact that this group plans to use their powers to find out who attacked a fellow classmate. I won't say anything else because like it's like 40 pages. I was definitely intrigued from the beginning. The MC seemed rather likeable and the other characters were alright, but then it just kind of went downhill like quite fast. There are certain like reasons for specific actions, but the trans storyline was like, it was just kind of like strange. I don't really know what to think about it. Like, I don't know, like there was a trans storyline, but I don't think it was like, it wasn't really well presented, and it just, I didn't like it, to be honest. Also just other things kind of irked me, and I was left with a lot of questions, and the fact that like this would have definitely been better if it was longer, like a bit longer, so it could have went more into detail about specific things and like stuff like that. So yeah, it was a bit simplistic, suited to a middle grade YA audience, but I was intrigued, but it lost me. So yeah, it was okay. It was just like, it was pretty meh, to be honest. Then the penultimate book I read was Babel by R.F. Kuang. This I also got as an audiobook through NetGalley, so thank you very much for that, because I absolutely loved this book. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and it is a long one. It is not my genre at all. Like, I'm not really a fantasy person or like a magical or whatever. I did do quite a long review, so I think I might make a specific video for Babel, because I do have a lot to say, but I'm just going to quickly say it. So it's sort of like centres on Robin, who moves from Canton, which is present day Guangzhou in China, to UK, like England, from a professor, because his like family dies, and the professor is like, I will take you here if you promise to like give all your time and passion to education and translation and stuff. So he was like, yeah, okay. So then he goes there, he learns things, he goes to Oxford, and he finds out that with translation, Babel is like using these magic bars to like help the British Empire like control lands and occupy things. And so he's sort of like conflicting, like, I don't know, should I help out like all the people that are giving me all these luxuries and options in life, but like killing my homeland and so many other places? Or should I like work with like a group to sort of like bring them down and stuff? And that's like quite well. It like deals with like a lot of different things, like the role of women and racism and like colonialism and like revolutions and different things like that. And like there is a lot. It's a very diverse genre. Like it's fantasy, it's magical, it's magical realism, it's like historical fiction. It's like found family, which was done so good. Oh my god, the relationship between Robin, Remy, Letty and Victoire was just so good. Yes, there are nuances and like it breaks down and stuff, but like every friendship has their issues. Like it's just obvious, but it was done so well. I absolutely loved all of the characters. There was something that I'm just like, seriously, like, no, that, like, why would have that happened? Why would that have happened? But then it does kind of get explained, and sort of. But like, I don't know, I don't want to, because I think I might do like a whole video on it. But if not, then you can read my review. And just, you know, I really loved it. The characters were so good. The writing is like amazing. Like, it is so clear that R.F. Kuang definitely like knew her stuff. Like, she understood the assignment and she just wrote to her heart's content. It definitely does give me big brain energy, and sort of like, she knows a lot, but like, it's not like I know a lot and you're like stupid. Exciting times. It's like I know a lot and I want to show you about it, and like the exploration of like this, like the art of translation and languages is just so like beautiful, and it's so like the characters have so much passion for it, and it's just, it is so great, it is so good. Yeah, I would totally recommend it. So thank you NetGalley for letting me have an audio version, because I think the audiobook not long came out, and like the way like the narrator did it was sort of like changing like the accents and stuff, and it was just, oh, it was so good. So yeah, I'd recommend that. It lived up to the hype. And then the final book I read there in November, I just finished it like 2 days ago because it's the second now, and I posted a video about the reading vlog and review for this, which you can see up there. That was All the Ways the World Can End by Abby Shear. This basically follows Lenny, who is 16. She's dealing with like the fact that her dad is like dying of cancer, and her best friend Julian might be like moving away. Just like lots of other pressures and stuff, and she sort of like spirals down and does like a lot of like things that you're like, hun, why? But then I send them a thing, like, you have to understand it, that the position she's in, she's dealing with like the regular things teenagers deal with, sort of like issues with like family and friendships and like gossipy stuff and like relationships and the future and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But then you have to put on top of that, like, she's dealing with like her dad literally like dying of cancer, and like grief and things, and like losing people, and like much more responsibility put on her. So yep, I gave this 3.5 stars, I think. Yeah, 3.5 stars. Yeah, and she's also like obsessed with like the end of the world, and like after every chapter there's sort of like a sort of like a thing about like different like ways the world can end. Yeah, and she's also like obsessed with like her dad's like temporary doctor, and sort of like infatuated by him and stuff. And yeah, the characters were fine. The writing is like nothing like amazing. It's just like a book that's like okay. It's not great, it's not terrible, it's just like alright. And yeah, I would recommend it only if you know what it's about and you're interested in the topics. So yeah, but they were all the books I read this month. From like this way, it looks like I didn't really read that much, but obviously I read a lot. And I'm so happy about like I got to like go into like so many different genres. And yeah, but I will be exploring more things in the future. So hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you very soon. Bye bye.